Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another lesson brought to you guys by STEM Lockdown Digital School. Welcome, everyone. I am going to be teaching English First Additional Language today to grade 10s, and the topic is writing and presenting agenda and minutes of the meeting. I am your presenter, Miss Pearl Nontlantla Langa, as you can see in my picture over there, and I will be enriching your knowledge today, teaching you guys yet another writing genre. If you're ready for today's lesson, please let me know in the chat box. But other than that, let's move on to today's work. Like I mentioned before in the first slide, we are doing an agenda and minutes of a meeting. For a lot of you guys, this will be a new writing genre, considering that you are in grade 10 this year. Most of you guys have not done an agenda to minutes of a meeting. And today I am going to be teaching you guys exactly how to find your way around writing an agenda and minutes to a meeting. I just want to give a shout out to all of you guys for being amazing. Even though yesterday I didn't receive any emails, you still have the opportunity to send me your friendly letters if you'd still like to, or to send me any other questions or any other work that you'd like to show me. And if you do send me work, I always do say that you will get a shout out. But for today, everyone here is getting a shout out. Hello, everybody. All right, let's quickly recap on yesterday's work. Yesterday, we did the friendly or informal letter, um, and we spoke about how we write friendly letters to people we know. We might write a friendly letter to our parents, grandparents, to our friends. I also taught you that the language used in a friendly letter is informal. However, we must be mindful of the type of informal language that we use when we are writing friendly letters. I told you guys about the style to use when you are writing a friendly letter, and that's the language. And then we spoke about various issues to avoid, like contractions, like text speech, and very foul language. Yes, Lionheart, no slang, no swearing. And I felt like that was a very fruitful lesson. Then, lastly, we looked at the structure of a friendly letter, and I think most of you guys found that very easy to comprehend. So at the end of the lesson today, you will know what an agenda is. You will know what minutes are, not what a minute is. What minutes are. You will know the purpose of an agenda and minutes. You will know how to write an agenda and minutes. And you will know the format followed when writing an agenda and minutes of a meeting. Are you guys ready? I am knowledgeable that this could be the first time some of you guys are doing this, so it could be a very valuable lesson for you to learn. Okay, if you're ready, let's go get it. All right, before we start with today's work officially, I just want to give a shout out to two textbooks that I've used today. And the first one is the grade 10 English Home Language Macmillan textbook, Solutions for All. Shout out to Macmillan. And then another free textbook given to us by the Basic Department of Education is Mind the Gap. It's a writing study guide made for grade 12s. But I realized as I was planning this lesson that it can be used across all grades. So shout out to Macmillan and the Basic Departments of Education. Right, so before we start talking about an agenda and minutes to a meeting, we need to understand what a meeting is, right? And I'm sure if you guys haven't been in a meeting before, you know what a meeting is, right? Who has attended a meeting before? For whatever reason. Anyone has attended a meeting before? Monica says she has. Tino says she has. Sarah, Tyrese says he attended a parents' meeting. That's very good, right? We've all attended a meeting or were forced to attend a meeting once in our lives, right? And a meeting, people seem to dislike meetings because they think they are a waste of time or people think meetings are boring, right? Meetings are not things that interest young people. But if the committee has a well planned agenda, a secretary to take down the minutes, and a chairperson to run the meeting properly, you can accomplish much in a very short time. Okay, so when you are doing this agenda and writing these minutes as well, you need to be knowledgeable that a lot of pre-planning comes to play before an actual meeting takes place. And a meeting takes place between usually a committee. A learner just mentioned that he's attended a parents' evening before, and that is a meeting. And usually, before meetings, an agenda is sent out to learners through a newsletter, right? And then in the meeting, there's a breakdown as to what will be spoken about, what are the issues that are rising, etc. So, an agenda and minutes to a meeting are basically pieces of writing that capture before the meeting, so the planning before the meeting, and the duration of the meeting, so what actually takes place in the actual meeting. Right. So we looked at very, very new terms as I was trying to define a meeting for you guys. And there was the word committee, agenda, secretary, minutes, and chairperson. A committee is a group of people appointed for a specific function. An agenda is a list of items to be discussed at a meeting. A secretary is an individual in the committee required to carry out administrative tasks. Minutes are the live written records of a meeting, and a chairperson is the presiding officer of an organized a group such as a board or committee. So when you look at all of these definitions, they form part of an actual meeting. And when you talk about an agenda and minutes to a meeting, these two things are closely related to how meetings are carried out. Okay, the difference between English file and English home language is that file is first additional language and home language is like English is your home language. But nothing differs. All of the topics are the same. All of the teachings are the same. The only thing that differs are the assessments. But it's basically the same thing, just slight differences. Right. So let's quickly check ourselves. Okay. I asked the question earlier, have you attended a formal meeting? Okay, and a lot of learners said yes, parents meeting. But who here has attended a formal meeting run by a chairperson with the secretary taking notes? Who has ever? Rack's iPhone. Rack, where exactly did you attend this meeting and what was it about? Oh, it was a family meeting. All right. Megan, was this a real court meeting or was it just a moot court meeting? I'm asking Lionheart, who has ever attended a formal meeting run by a chairperson or a secretary taking minutes? Prefect meeting, that's a very good example, Tino. Prefect meetings are also very, very, very strict. There's a chairperson in the prefect meeting, and there's a secretary that takes down the minutes of the meeting. So that's a very good example, Tino. Okay. Megan, okay, I see Megan. I think it could be personal if you had to tell us why. So I'd prefer it if you don't tell us why you attended that formal court meeting. Okay. Okay, Therese says he's never been to a prefect meeting, but I'm sure we all know how prefect meetings are carried out, right? Monica, I would say personal things like courts, etc. We leave out for today. Right. So we've all been to prefect meetings. We've all seen prefect meetings. We've all heard what happens in prefect meetings, and that's what we refer to. It's an example of a formal meeting, right? Every meeting needs to be run by a chairperson or a vice chairperson according to the items on the agenda. Right. So in a prefect meeting, for all of those people who are not prefects yet or have not attended a prefect meeting, there's a board of executives, right? In the board of executives, you have a chairperson, you have a vice chairperson, you have a secretary, you have a treasurer, etc. There's like many roles that are taken in the executive team. Then what this team does is when there is supposed to be a meeting, right? Um, they drop an agenda and they give it to the rest of the members of the prefect team. Then in the actual meeting, the secretary takes down the notes, which we call the meeting of the minutes of the meeting. Right. So how to run a meeting? The chairperson welcomes everyone, then introduces the agenda. Items are discussed by all those at the meeting. Decisions are taken about what actions will happen, and these decisions are recorded by the secretary. The chairperson announces the date of the next meeting and closes the meeting. So if you've ever attended a meeting before and you are not the secretary, you wouldn't realize that there's someone actually taking down minutes as the meeting is going on, right? So what happens is as people are talking, sharing their ideas, coming up with solutions, making decisions, the chairperson writes down all of these details. And these details are what we refer to as the minutes of a meeting. Right. Let's quickly move on and talk about the agenda. Okay. So before the actual meeting takes place, right, an agenda is distributed to the people who are coming to the meeting. Okay. So they say here an agenda gives an outline of what is to be discussed at the meeting. It is normally given beforehand to people who are invited to a meeting. So if you are a prefect, for example, and there are a lot of issues going on in school that you have to discuss in your prefect team, what the chairperson and secretary will do before the meeting is they will send out an agenda. And in this agenda, you'll be given an idea as to what the meeting is going to be about. Right. The agenda is usually drawn up by the chairperson and the secretary, who, among others, check minutes of the previous meeting for items that were carried over. Okay. They list and collect items that the meeting may need to address, and they invite members or delegates to forward items they want discussed. Yes, Tino. So the minutes of the previous meeting are also read at the start of the new meeting. Okay, so you guys need to quickly like recap. You know what I do before every lesson? We recap on what we did yesterday or the last week before we start with the new lesson. So it sort of like bridges the gap between people who are not there or who are unable to attend and people who were there who just want to remember what the meeting was about. So you're right, Tino. Right, let's move on to the next slide about the agenda. Okay, so basically, like I mentioned in the previous slide, an agenda is written before the actual meeting and is distributed to the people who are coming to attend the meeting, right? So it kind of gives you a direction as to what the meeting is about. And here is a format of the agenda, and you will see it's a very, very, very simple format, right? It starts off with the heading, okay? And the heading is usually the word agenda, okay? And then immediately after that, in the next line, you will have the dates, okay? So what is the meeting number, what is the date, and what is the time? Then immediately after your date and time and meeting number, you would write down the committee name, okay? So who is holding this meeting that we are all invited to? And the committee name there is Sizwe High School Learners Representative Council. Can you see that? Then immediately after the heading of the people who are holding the meeting, you would have all of the things that are going to take place in point form. And usually at the beginning of every single meeting, we have an opening, we have a welcome. Okay, that's the first point. Then we have attendance and apologies. So with attendance and apologies, these are the people who are attending the meeting, and these are the people who are not attending the meeting. Okay, the meeting number will go immediately after the word meeting, after your heading. So you'll have your heading first, agenda, then you'll have meeting number 2, then you'd write down the date and the time. Your meeting doesn't necessarily have to have a number, by the way. You can just say meeting, write down the date, write down the time, just like we have in the example here. Okay. Right, so let's go back to our list in numbered form. I did say attendance and apologies. You write down all of the names of the people who will be attending the meeting and all of the names of the people who will not be attending the meeting. Then you will have minutes of the previous meeting read out. Then you would have new matters, you would have date of next meeting, and you would close and give a vote of thanks. Remember, in the agenda, we don't give too much information about what's to happen in the meeting because, right, an agenda, the meeting hasn't taken place yet. Okay, the meeting hasn't taken place yet. So usually when you write the agenda, we use the future tense. We use the future tense because the meeting hasn't taken place as yet. But what I always advise learners is rather just write down your points in listed in point form as opposed to writing down full sentences. Do you understand? Do I have any questions at this point? Okay, so I don't seem to have any questions. Let me move on to minutes. So remember, before I move on to minutes, the agenda is written before the meeting, right? Before the meeting, and it gives the members a detailed outline as to what the meeting is going to be about. Okay. Welcome, Vicky. Right, let's quickly move on. So it says here, what are minutes? Let's look at minutes. Okay, Carolina says, I must go back to the previous slide. What do you need from the previous slide? You need me to explain anything, Carolina? You want to take a screen? Okay, can I move on? Right. Let's move on to the minutes of a meeting. Right. So remember, you've sent out your agenda. You've invited people to your meeting. Now, these people have to come attend the actual meeting. So as the actual meeting is taking place, you are required to take down minutes. Right. Okay, so it says here, what are minutes? The first point. Minutes provide a summary of what was proposed and finally agreed upon. Okay, so when you are in a meeting, there's usually a lot of conflicts that arise or a lot of questions that arise, right? And usually with the minutes of a meeting, you write down what was proposed by certain members of the committee and what the final decision is. Okay, and unlike an agenda, which is written in future tense, because remember, the meeting hasn't happened yet, with the minutes, we write them in past tense because the meeting has happened. All right. Okay, Tyler Kush raised the hand. Do you have a question, Tyler Kush? Okay, I don't think he does. Okay. With minutes, you know, like with every meeting, a joke can come up here and there, right? But with minutes of a meeting, we don't take record of any jokes. We don't take any record of trivialities. And by that, I mean trivialities, people arguing, people fighting. Let's say maybe one member of the committee punched the other member in the face. Those are things we leave out. However, you could just include highlights of a conflict broke out, but the chairperson quickly resolved it. And if the conflict is closely related to what the meeting is about, it would be very relevant to put it in the minutes. Okay, so we don't put any jokes. We don't say Josh cracked a joke and everyone laughed. That's not important. Megan, if the fight is related to what the meeting is about, so for example, let's say you want all the members of the SRC to donate 5 rand, and there's a fight that breaks out between two members about not wanting to pay 5 rands for whatever reason, then you would write down that conflict happened because members don't want to contribute 5 rand. Um, Lionheart, jokes may be allowed in the actual meeting, but remember, meetings are very, very formal. Okay, so it's not a time for playing around, it's not a time for games. So we don't crack any jokes or we don't write down any jokes. Although sometimes jokes are natural, and this doesn't mean that you have to write down these jokes as part of your minutes. Yes, Megan, it just won't be mentioned. Right. So the last point is minutes only become legal and binding once signed and dated by the chairperson after being read and adopted in the next meeting. So minutes are a legal piece of documentation. If you attended the meeting and maybe someone wants to know where you were at 1 o'clock on Friday, they can quickly just go and verify with the minutes, especially if they are signed by the chairperson. They can be used for legal purposes. If you agree with the decision taken by the committee and the chairperson signs these minutes, and then all of a sudden you change your mind, you can be held liable. Okay, so it's basically a record of what happens, but a written record of what is happening. Yes, at the meeting, Vicky. Right, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so minutes. Here is the outline of minutes. Let's quickly look at it, and you will notice that the format of the minutes to a meeting are longer than the agenda. Remember, we don't know, right, what is to take place when we are writing the agenda of the meeting. We're just giving highlights as to what we think we will talk about or the main topics we will be discussing. So with the minutes, the discussions are actually ongoing. So let's look at this example quickly. It says heading, you would have your heading, minutes, okay? Then you would have meeting, you would have the date, and you would have the time. Then you would have the name of the organization, right? Then the first point is opening and welcome, right? So you would say, James Molefe, the chairperson, welcomed the members and declared the meeting open. The second point is attendance. As per attendance register attached, apologies, Z Mkopozi, right? Then number 3, you would have minutes of last meeting. Minutes of last meeting were adopted. Remember, we are writing minutes in past tense. Then new matters is our next point. So what is happening now? What are we discussing? Okay, and then here we find out that we are discussing the increase in the number of late comers. Right, Refuge stated that the colder weather was a factor and that the teachers should be more understanding. Nedisi Ngube and Bulelo disagreed and stated that more learners should be placed at the gates to monitor latecomers. James Molefe reminded the council that the taxis were often unreliable. A vote was taken that latecomers should have to stay after school to finish their classwork. This motion was carried. So basically, with point number 4 for new matters, you write down new points that are discussed in the meeting. Okay, so you write these points down, okay, in past tense. No, Zit Mkobozi is the person who is absent. So by apologies, they mean that Zit Mkobozi said that or mentioned before the meeting that she will not attend the meeting. Yes, Lionheart, he was absent. Right. Do you guys see exactly what you have to do under new matters? You write down what is going on in the meeting, okay, in sentence form. Remember, it's written in past tense because the meeting has already happened. You are writing things that have already been said. Okay. Then after new matters, you write down the date of the next meeting. And they say here the date of the next meeting is 18 June 2013 at 1 o'clock. And in closing of the meeting, the chairperson thanked the members for attending. Then you write down the meeting concluded at 4 o'clock. Can you see? So the last part of your minutes, you must give the date to the next meeting and the time. And also you must write down what the final remarks by the chairperson were. Write down the time that the meeting ended. Right. Okay. Let's quickly move on. Okay. So agenda and minutes. Let's quickly recap. They say there an agenda must have a clear link with the minutes. Okay, Matabo is asking, are the new matters a summary of the entire meeting? Yes. Okay, let's quickly go back to the format because we have a very good question by Matabo. The new matters are the summary of the entire meeting. So you're not going to write down every word, everything that was said word for word. It's impossible. So you need to be smart enough as the secretary to summarize what was said by the different members in the meeting and how everyone's opinion led to the final outcome. Does that make sense, Matab? Okay, I think Matabo gets it, even though she's not responding at this point. Right. Megan, no, they don't mention what would happen in the next meeting. Okay, they don't mention. They only mention what is happening in the next meeting in the agenda. So they just give a date and a time for the next meeting, but they don't mention what they will be talking about because there's a lot of issues that arise in between the last meeting and the next meeting. Because like I said, Vicky, there's a lot of issues that may arise between today's meeting and the next meeting. So they don't know yet what they will be discussing and what issues may come up. So it's always good to look for issues in between the time, then create an agenda based on those issues that arise. Okay, so let's go back to this quickly recap. An agenda must have a clear link with the minutes, okay? And then this guy says this is because the agenda sets out what the meeting will be about, and the minutes are the record of this meeting. I'm glad you caught on really quickly, Vicky. I'm glad. That's a nice fade, Diary, isn't it? And that guy is basically telling us or reminding us that, remember, the agenda comes first, okay? It tells us what the meeting is going to be about. And then the minutes are the record of the actual meeting. So there is a clear link between the agenda and minutes. They always go together. Right, let's quickly move on. So there are various steps that you have to follow. Okay, there are various steps that you have to follow when you are writing an agenda and minutes to a meeting. Okay, guys, settle down and focus. Let's settle down and focus. Okay, there are various steps that you have to follow when you are writing an agenda and minutes. Okay, so step one, usually you'll be given different topics, right? And you will be required to write down an agenda and minutes based on a topic. So I've given you guys here an example topic, and it goes as follows. You are the secretary of your school's learner representative council. Write the agenda and minutes of a meeting in which the council discussed late comers. So that's the example topic. And this is the topic we have chosen, right? So now your task is for step one, you need to identify keywords that help with planning. Let's quickly look at that example topic. Who can give me the keywords in that topic that can help you with planning? Give me any keywords from the topic. Latecomers, that's correct. Any more keywords? Learner representative council, that's correct. Anything else? Secretary, anything else? Secretary. Okay, so here are the keywords. we have Learner Representative Council. So you need to know that when you are writing these minutes, you are part of the Learner Representative Council. So if you said that, that was correct. Agenda. So what's important is you need to know as you read this topic that you're supposed to plan for an agenda and minutes. Well done, Vicky. Okay. So agenda and minutes are keywords because you're supposed to plan for an agenda and minutes. But what are they supposed to be about? And the other big keyword is late comers. So those are the keywords that you have to find first before you can actually start planning for your meeting, for your agenda and minutes. Okay. Then step 2, you start planning. Okay. When you plan, you must make sure that you organize your points in the right order and number them. So remember our agenda example I showed you guys earlier, and I'll show you guys again. Okay. It's a very, 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 very short format. And when you plan for that, I would advise you to adapt to the same format. Same number of points, just write down what each point will be. And when you write down your agenda, it's going to be exactly the same as your planning. And then your minutes as well. You must tell who opens and welcomes, what are the names of the learners present, minutes, new matters, next meeting, and thanks for coming and what time the minutes ended, the meeting ended. So it's very simple jotting down and planning. Okay. Then step 3 is you write and edit a draft text. Okay. Remember, when you write a draft, this is where you put your ideas that you use to plan to life. Remember, we have our heading, which is agenda. Then we have meeting, we have the date and the time. Then we have the name of the committee. And the name of the committee is Sizwe High School Learners Representative Council. Then your first point is opening and welcome. Guys, settle down, please. Settle down. Okay, the first point is opening and welcome. The second point is attendance and apologies. Third point, minutes of previous meeting. Fourth point, new matters, latecomers, date of next meeting, and you close vote of thanks. Remember, we are still on step 3. So with the agenda, it's going to seem very repetitive, but it's going to help you in order to understand exactly what order the agenda takes. Okay. And if you have to plan for your minutes, there you can see they've modeled the planning very nicely to us. The spelling mistake for learners there has been fixed. The spelling mistake for attendance has been fixed. Council concluded. Okay. So it's always important to edit your work first. What about emergency meetings? That's a very good one, Megan. So let's say maybe you want an emergency meeting for today. Okay, you would have to tell the members of your committee about this emergency meeting. I'm going to repeat that, Megan. For an emergency meeting, you would have to tell the members of your committee about this emergency meeting. So you would send them an email address, which is an agenda, telling them about the emergency meeting and what this emergency meeting is going to be about. Yes. So you can't just have an emergency meeting and your committee members don't know about it. You would have to tell them about the emergency meeting and what the emergency meeting will be about. Right. Okay, then your final draft, like I said before, you have your heading, you have your meeting date, time, the name of your organization, your points 1 to 6. Then for the minutes, you would have this structure again adapted without all of those mistakes. Okay, let's focus. Too much chitter chatter today. Okay. Do you guys get it? Are there any questions? Are there any questions? No, 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 no. Okay, learners don't have questions. Let's quickly check ourselves. The text type. Let's look at the text type. Do you understand the features of an agenda and minutes? Yes, no, or don't know. Okay, Megan says yes. Tiro says yes. Lionheart, yes. Okay, so we have yeses. The next one, I understand the topic that I have chosen and what you have to do once you've chosen the topic. More yeses. Oh, Vicky, that's a nice big yes. Then, with planning, do you understand that you have to show evidence of planning? Okay, yes, yes, yes. Awesome. For content, do you understand that there's a clear link between the content of the agenda and the content of minutes? Yes. I understand the purpose of an agenda and minutes. Yes. You understand the format of an agenda and minutes? Yes. So this was an easy one today, right, guys? Okay. And language. Do you understand the type of language that you're supposed to use? Okay. Duro says maybe. Uh-huh. Okay. Okay, and then lastly, you understand that you have to check your grammar and your spelling? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. You guys have been awesome. Right, let's move on to your turn. Please take a screenshot of this activity. It says, you belong to a soccer netball athletics club. The next meeting of the committee is due to take place. 2 issues are on the agenda: an increase in the subscription fees and the need to expand the clubhouse. Write the agenda and minutes of this meeting. So remember our keywords there are Soccer Netball Athletics Club. You must write down an agenda and minutes. And the issues on the agenda are increase in subscription fees and the expand of the clubhouse. And you must write the agenda and minutes of this meeting. Remember steps 1 to 4 when you write down your agenda and minutes, okay? And your entire work needs to be between 180 to 200 words, which kind of gives you an indication that it's not supposed to be long. It's not supposed to be long at all. Right. Do we all have this activity? Have you all taken the screenshot? Yes, Saris. So we do them both combined. They always go together, Saris. We always write down the agenda, and the agenda has a clear link with the minutes. And the reason why our word count is only 180 to 200, it means that it's not supposed to be long. We are not writing an essay. Okay. Wow, Vicky and his yeses today. Wow. You really are coffee mode. Yes, the word count is for them combined. Your agenda is only going to be about 50 words because remember your agenda is in point form. Sarah's asking why. Sarah, what are you asking, my dear? Guys, you have to settle down because a lot of learners are confused by the traffic in the group chat and they're asking very valuable questions. Okay, Sarah, you were asking a question, my dear. You said why. Okay, I think okay, Sarah will ask the question as we move along. Okay. Right. So never mind. Okay. So when you write these minutes, this agenda in minutes, they go together. So the 180 to 200 words are for them both. And as I was mentioning before, with the agenda, you will use only about 50 words because it's short. Okay? And you only have your 6 points there, your heading, your dates, and time. That's all. And then with your minutes, that's where you would use your most words. And I would say 50 words for the agenda, 150 words for the minutes. And in that sense, you would make 200 words. Okay, that's how I would divide it. Right, we're done for today. We all have a screenshot of the text, right? And once you're done, you know exactly what to do. You must email your letters to me at langa.pearl@gmail.com. Vicky, we have done 40 minutes already, so it wasn't quick. Email all of your, not letters, but agendas and minutes to me at langa.pearl@gmail.com. Let's quickly go through the steps again. Okay, step one, you choose your topic. You find keywords to help you plan. Step two, planning. You use format to help you plan. Step three, draft and edits. Step four, final draft. And those are the 4 steps that will help you write a successful agenda and minutes. Thank you so much, guys, for finding this lesson fun. Come back tomorrow. We have an exciting lesson on unseen poetry. I will be teaching you guys how to analyze a poem. So come and join me tomorrow. If you miss me, you can always catch us at www.africateengeeks.co.za, or you can email me at langa.pearl@gmail.com. You can follow us on social media on Twitter at African Teen Geeks, at Pearlings, and on Facebook you can find me at Pearl Pearling Langa. Thank you so much, guys. See you tomorrow. Have a restful Tuesday.